Hello, sociologists. So we're together again to talk more about the education system as a macro-scale social institution. And this time we're going to put on the conflict theory lens, and we are going to analyze the macro-scale design structure of the education system from the standpoint of trying to pick out the inequality that's built into that system. Because conflict theory is very different from functionalism. So in the previous video, I talked about the things that functionalists would say about the wonderful parts of the education system and how it recreates stability and order for us moving forward throughout from one generation to the next and keeping our society stable and orderly. But a conflict theorist wants to say, move over functionalists. We've got some critiques to do of our own, and we see a whole bunch of inequality, either intentionally or unintentionally built into the education system, that continues to recreate the same old social order full of inequality generation after generation. So when you put it that way, a conflict theorist does not like that inequality. They want to find the inequality and get rid of it, do something to get rid of it. So that's what we're going to look at today. And you haven't seen this ladder for a while. I think it was chapter 7, week 8, 9, whenever we were on chapter 7, when we were using ladders all the time. And this, of course, represents social stratification. It represents a physical picture of the different kinds of socioeconomic inequality that happen in the United States. So when you're looking at socioeconomics, please remember those are those three achieved statuses: income, education, occupation. The education level is linked to the occupation you're qualified to get. The occupation has a different income level because that's the design of our economy. That's the design of our merit-based work system and wage structure. So, conflict theory has a major problem with this, and you see a lot of social movements in current events now in the United States, the Black Lives Matter movement being one of them, that talks about breaking down social institutions, the education system included, breaking them down, wiping them off the face of the earth as we know it, and building them back without these inequalities built in. So for the meantime, though, and when/if that actually happens, the conflict theorists look at the current state of education in the United States. This is going to be in the United States, and asks, where's the inequality? And this system constantly repeats, we call it the status quo, the same thing over and over again with the same inequality built into it over and over again. And so that's why some people are like Lolly in that video we watched, way down here on the bottom rung. And some people are like the Home Alone kid. Do you see the movie Home Alone? That household he comes from with all the resources that he has in that household. Where is he? Here or here? Think about the background of those two kids, the Kevin in the Home Alone movies, or Lolly and her kids and grandkids way down here. What's their background like, and how is the education system designed to expect a certain level of what we call cultural capital built into the minds of those who go into the education system? Okay, let me pause on this cultural capital thing, because it's a fabulous concept, but it's kind of a little bit complicated to think about. So we talk about capitalism, which is built on resources, being able to use the resources that you own in order to make more money and buy more resources and get more ownership. Well, is a famous theorist, anthropologist, philosopher, I guess you'd call him, in France, who talked about cultural capital. And this is the amount of knowledge, not just physical resources like a lawnmower that I can charge people money to mow their lawn, but this is the amount of background knowledge that we get in our socialization process about our nation and our surroundings and our world in general. Do we have language competencies that match the expected language competencies for our age group at that time in that place? Do we have knowledge of the arts or history? Do we have knowledge of technology? Do we have just basic knowledge that the people of that age group are expected to have? And so if we talk about kindergarten age and we use Lolly and her grandkids as an example of a certain background level of knowledge compared to the kid from Home Alone and his background level of knowledge and resources, etc., which one of them is more prepared to start kindergarten or pre-kindergarten on the first day. First of all, Kevin from Home Alone would probably not be in pre-kindergarten. Pre-K is what we call that. Pre-K was specifically designed to try to get more of these kids down here into the system sooner, to try to fill in the gaps that they were not getting from their socialization process at home, because resource availability, life chances, are lower down here. So if you're worried about your life chances for subsistence, you don't have a whole lot of time to work with your kids on their educational attainment and instill in them a fervor or a desire for increased education. And so cultural capital is something that we are expected, even on the first day of kindergarten, to know. Kindergarten teachers will ask you things like, what is your mom's phone number? Well, if your mama changes phones all the time because you can't afford a standard phone number and you have to get, a new number each time that your phone expires, then how are you supposed to know which number they're talking about? Or if your mama has 3 jobs, you can't keep up with the phone numbers. So it's not that you are not smart enough to know your mom's phone number, but maybe the resources in your household, you don't have a steady phone number. You don't have something that you can just answer right away. And remember, in Lolly's Kin, Reggie Barnes, the superintendent of school, said that they get kids in kindergarten who don't know their names, they've never been read to, they don't know their colors, they don't know how to count to 10. These are cultural competencies, that are made up in your cultural capital that kindergarten teachers expect you to have on the first day of kindergarten. You need to know what your name is, and not that your name is Redman. Because that's what they need to know that your name is Gregory Wallace, for instance, because that's what's on the roster. But if you don't know it at 6, you only know your name's Redman because that's what they call me, then that might lead the teacher to believe that you're not smart. Is it that you're not smart, or you don't have the background in your socialization process that prepared you for that day? You also don't have electricity in your household, so how are you supposed to watch TV and watch Big Bird and whoever else you see, Blue's Clues or whatever these things are that some of y'all mentioned in your socialization reaction papers? You don't have exposure to those kinds of things. Morning library reading time, because your mama and your grandmama work on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock when that happens, and they can't take you to that. And your grandmama, who you stay with, has glasses too thick and only went to the 5th grade anyway, so she can't read that book to you, nor does she have time when there are 7 of you running around her like a hurricane. So there's cultural capital that you're expected to have, and the lower you are on the ladder, unfortunately, the system mandates that because of the way the economy is designed, because of the way the workforce is designed, because of the way the education system is designed, family units are designed where mommy and daddy, if daddy's even there, is supposed to help take care of you, and that's who's responsible. Then your cultural capital is down. That's one of the reasons why the Black Lives Matter movement wants to get rid of nuclear families, because it's so difficult to do all the responsibilities that the parent is assigned to do in that, quote, traditional family unit structure. And so then you're starting from behind. You're starting from behind. We need programs like Head Start and programs like Pre-K or Pre-3 to try to catch you, a safety net to try to catch you. Because if you don't know your colors on the first day of school, if you don't know how to count to 10, you don't know your mama's phone number, I might think that you're not very bright, and I might put you in a curriculum tracking program that is called remedial or resource or anything such as that never challenges you to step up from that. I'm never going to give you the opportunity to change, to strive for a little bit more, set a goal a little bit here instead of just always the goal is here. Because maybe I wasn't exposed to that in the background, but socialization is one of the manifest functions of education, and if it gives me an opportunity to achieve other higher levels, I might live up to that. I might respond to a positive outlook and expectation that a teacher has and rise above my curriculum track, but not if I'm constantly labeled resource and stuck in resource classes and only ever exposed to that level of challenge. So curriculum tracks can keep people on a level that they are assigned to very early in age, and it never gives them a chance to bloom, blossom, and grow. So that social placement part of functionalism is part of this right here. It reproduces that curriculum track that only trains me to a C level of remedial courses rather than a C level of AP courses. Big difference. Can reproduce the same class level. When I say class here, socioeconomic class. If you start out here, probably you're going to end up here for a whole lot of reasons, because other people like you are in your curriculum track. So where's your peer group going to come from? Where's your romantic relationships going to come from? Potential spouses in the future, economic alliances that you have with people from the same people that you already hang out with. And so class reproduction is a major critique of the current organizational structure of the education system in the United States from a conflict standpoint. Remember, functionalists say it's supposed to be that way because we have different social value on the different work that people do. And so it's supposed to be that way. This is a completely different perspective we're looking at it here. And they say, no, we've got to fix the cultural capital deficiencies, and maybe getting rid of the nuclear family is part of that. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying that that's some people's theory. Look at the Society for Marxist Sociology online or the BLM manifesto, and you can see that that's one of the mechanisms that they suggest could get rid of this great division of classes in our society. There's also something based on, really this is going to be more like the ascribed status part of our social inequality here, a hidden curriculum. Because in education, remember how we said that with functionalism, they talk about how education restricts your activities and it also serves as a social control, and the functionalists say that's a good thing. Conflict theorists are going to call that a hidden curriculum because it teaches, in their perspective, it teaches you to obey authority and not question. It teaches you to follow gender roles that are modeled for you in the literature or in the teachers or in whatever. It teaches you to just maintain, again, the same old way of doing things that has inequality at the core. Inequality among the sexes, inequality in the gender categories, inequality in the races, inequality in the socioeconomic categories. Conflict theorists, when they look at the education system, have a completely different point of view than functionalists do. And if you look at how education has changed over time, when I was little, people had to pay tuition if they even found a kindergarten program anywhere. Parents were expected to put their kids in school on the first day of first grade, not the first day of kindergarten. And over time, conflict arguments in politics about the lack of cultural capital have changed the climate so that now you can very easily find pre-3 programs that are free to parents instead of any kind of tuition being involved. So this is a conflict look at the education system, and there's more to read about. I put Jeffrey Canada's name on here because he's like an education hero of mine. I love him. He started the one of the great educational initiatives that's really worked well for some people in Harlem. So look him up if you can. He's wonderful in my opinion. You don't have to think so, but I do. So anyway, I look forward to your reaction papers this week, and text me with questions, but there is more to come.